And now we will be moving on to our next panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen. So the topic of discussion of this panel is going to be creating digital customer experience at scale. Let me share the synopsis of the discussion that will be taking place. The session will cover the importance of understanding customer needs, leveraging technology to personalize interactions, and maintaining a seamless experience across various platforms. It will also explore case studies of successful implementations and address common challenges and solutions in scaling digital customer experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, to discuss on this topic, we have our industry and illustrious set of industry experts. So please join me in welcoming our panel members on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, our first panel member is Shweta Srivastava, Head of Digital and Omni-Channel Marketing, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. A little warmer welcome by putting our hands together. Ladies and gentlemen, please. Very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Our next panel member, yes, please. Our next panel member is Mr. Sumit Biswas, Head D2C and E-Commerce, Bikanervala Foods Private Limited. A very warm welcome to you. Very warm welcome to you, sir. We request you to please take a seat. Inviting our next panel member, Mr. Kunal Dhrangadharia, Global Brand Leader, Royal Enfield. A very warm welcome to you, sir. A very warm welcome. Please take a seat. Inviting our next panel member, Mr. Abbhishek Chadha, EVP, North and East Interactive Avenues. A very warm welcome to you. Very warm welcome to you. Please take a seat. And to moderate this session, may I call our session chair, Mr. Anil Vanwari, founder, chairman, and editor-in-chief, IndianTelevision.com Group. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Okay, guys, are you guys having a good time? Are you learning enough? Are you excited? I'm not Shradha, by the way. I don't look as pretty as her, so please excuse me. She couldn't make it because of a personal emergency. And Manasi also couldn't make it. She had a personal emergency. But I'm really glad I have a fabulous panel. I'll begin by asking them straight away. Tell us a bit about, I'll begin with my God, my memory. At 61, I tend to forget names. Shweta, yeah. How far are you in the customer journey on digital, as far as you're concerned? You're a pharma brand. How far are you? Where are you at?
I think we are still at the learning curve, really at the bottom. Because pharmaceutical industry as an industry itself has very recently get onto this digital transformation journey. And it looks like we are learning. We have the best tools and the systems, but we are still learning on how to use it properly.
So what have you done so far? So how exactly are you functioning as compared to the real world, the brick and mortar world, was on the digital side?
So I typically do not segregate digital from, because when you are talking about the customer experience, I do see that experience across the channel, not just digital. However, digital plays a very important role because of the measurability factor, because of a lot of insights and data that you can get from there. And you can actually take your next decisions in terms of what the best customer experience would be. But we typically divide it into three things. So it's not just the platform. So one is obviously that you need to have the machinery correct, which is your technology platforms or MarTech. The second is that what is actually you're adding the value or the experience that you are giving to the customer. And experience means the content. So whether your customer journey is right, you know that what your customer needs are, and accordingly you are catering to their needs.
My question is very simple. You have your own Dr. Reddy's website. You're delivering via PharmEasy. You're delivering via 1mg. How exactly is it functioning? Your journey now, so far, how far are you?
So I see the journey, when I was talking about the journey, I see the journey top of the funnel and bottom of the funnel. Bottom of the funnel is what you're talking about, which is your, how your purchase is happening.
Absolutely.
But I see the journey even before that, which includes that all the digital platforms, be it Meta, be it Google ecosystem, be it any other influencer marketing programs that we do. Now all of this needs to connect back, build the consideration and then get them to the bottom of the funnel, which eventually is your purchase, which is your, the e-tailers or the pharmacies or e-pharmacies. Yeah.
So you're on all the e-pharmacies, you're available through all the e-pharmacies. I'm talking about the purchase side, because that's where the final customer experience comes.
Yes, we typically take the top 3 now, because I'm also looking at not just India market, but across the global market. So every market is different. Every market has probably, the top 3 market shares, whichever player is there. So we typically focus on that. But then we also try out the new ones, because at times what happens is, it's about the early starters, right? So if there's a new e-pharmacy which has launched something, you can go ahead and then, try it out. But
So
typically it's a top
3. And
top
your
3.
own platform?
We do have our own platforms, not for all the specialities, but then typically not for all the disease areas, but some of them. However, that's just an experimentative step that
So
we
you're
are
very
doing.
early days.
We are very early days.
Okay, Sumit, in your case, how far are you gone? Let's not talk about the top of the funnel. Let's talk about the customer experience, the touch point of the customer. Then we'll go into other points.
Right. So typically, we have everything. I mean, it's like Shweta said that we have.
Can
our
you hold the
own-
mic closer?
We have our own app, own platform, delivery system. Everything is ready, but we are depending on the aggregators platform, right? I mean, Swiggy, Zomato, Amazon, Flipkart. So major sales from there. So we have a good ambition to do similar kind of a stuff which is Domino's is doing. So that I mean we can have our own experience directly to the customer, right? And having said that, that is a very challenging and that is a very cost thing, and we need to switch it. But when, how, what, we are still yet to figure it out, because running a own platform is kind of a operation heavy, right? For our AOV size is very limited, right? I mean, we hardly have like 550 to 600 rupees of a AOV. So getting the food delivery on that AOV is very challenging. So again, I mean, the quick commerce is facing the problem, right? I mean, they are getting a challenge from
AOV is average order value.
Yeah, average order value, right? So that's what we have ready with we have a best technology. We are using Shopify for our own website. We are using UEngage for our apps and all everything. But yes, we need some time, and we are collecting data again. So we are having our own loyalty program. So we have more data. I mean, we have all the data. Whatever you eat, whatever you are there. Transforming is happening from our own loyalty channels, but it will take some time.
Okay. Kunal, what about your case in terms of Royal Enfield? How far you're in the entire? And then I'll come to you, going to talk about your clients. How far are they?
So for Royal Enfield or any two-wheeler brand, the consumer journey is a little longer because they are in that search phase, and then they would like to go out, try the product, then come back, make a decision. But impressing the consumer in that first instance is also very, very important. For each and everything, and two-wheelers, auto as a category, the first impression is online. People do visit the regular product pages, see how the lineup and everything is displayed. For us, it's also a bit of a challenge to ensure the merchandising, customization, and the other aspects also to be in place, along with the respective state and city-wise price list, etc. That are like kind of hygiene for the entire category. So it is very important that first wow is done, and as much options of the final product with all the customizations and everything are also displayed to the consumer, while we take into that cookie for the individual. The targeting also starts on all digital social channels, which are fairly big for the auto as a category, because that kind of weightage on the screen and that kind of an impact that you can create for that user, maybe in a meta universe. So that is also fairly important for us.
But you don't have aggregator platforms like these people do.
We have third-party aggregators.
Third party.
Yes. So that we don't control what they do, but they are also accommodating enough to listen to us. If we are to go up to them and comment that certain page, certain brand is not right, use this creative, use such language, and they have also, by the way, very good experts at their end. So that there's not a lot of technologically wrong information, or because otherwise it gets called out and feeds back on the reputation of those aggregators. So we do have them, and when it comes to say for a brand like Royal Enfield, it's also competing with an always-on kind of a scenario. So we as a brand have to make sure that we are ranked on top so that they land on our page first. And that's also a recurring expense for brands like Royal Enfield. But not all the brands and all the product categories do that within the sub-portfolio as well. So also depends on a lot of how the organization is seeing the sub-brands and subcategories, the weightage, and probably the fear of losing the consumer to someone else, because it's a high involvement purchase, and we need to impress them in the first go.
Exactly. So these two guys, now on to Abbhishek, right? Yeah. These two guys are very early on. He seems to have evolved. How's the rest of the different product categories and your clients? Where are they at?
Yeah. So, you look at the product categories today and you put them onto a maturity index graph. There are categories which have matured very quickly. When I say maturity is the sum total of everything that they've done to create the best digital consumer journey, right? And the consumer journey is a very convoluted consumer journey today, so you need to be creating and adapting and improvising all kinds of touch points. I'll quote two examples of our clients wherein we've been able to create very nuanced customer experiences which have had a direct impact onto business result. One client of ours into broadband services, right? A category which is extremely volatile, prone to a lot of service issues. There was this consumer who put a service rant out at about 3:48 in the afternoon, saying that terrible service, blah blah, and he was just bashing the brand all across. We do social listening as one piece in terms of identifying consumer chatter, sentiment, etc., etc. So we picked that up. We had an immediate integration with their services team through a seamless CRM setup. Within 14 minutes, the service was resolved. There was a modem update through the consumer's app that had to be configured. And 14 minutes, we created we got the consumer from being extremely negative to neutral, and we had him comment. We didn't have him comment, but he went out and he said that the problem was resolved. So that's how the consumer experience got created and a positive consumer experience got created. What was the role of tech behind it, and what is it that we as an agency provide as a solution? There was social listening at the helm of it, and there was a complete tech integration between the ORM systems and the CRM systems, right? So more often than not, we see the journey only as maybe a website or e-commerce front, but the consumer scatters across the entire universe very, very, very minutely. The second example is what we do for a large part of our commerce clients. As you said, you're also available on horizontals as verticals as well. Who owns the right to consumer experience there? The brand or the platform, right? Because ultimately the offtake's happening there. but the brand is being questioned on. So what we've been doing for them is we've been doing active shelf monitoring. So the products come in, the products stock out, there is pin code availability, what the competition is doing. More often than not, we found out that the retailers, both verticals, quick commerce, they've been stocking out, the products being stocked out, but there are still searches happening on those products, which is a negative consumer experience. So we scan that and we put that information back very quickly to the brand so that the stock comes back absolutely immediately, near time basis, so that the consumer experience is seamless. Right?
That's what you're doing. But how far is the categories in terms of evolution? There are mature ones. Mature would be the online e-commerce brands would be mature.
Yeah, so if you look at BFSI, if you look at auto, if you look at a large part of the durable segments, they're still at a higher maturity index. All D2C brands, because the nature of their business is completely digital only, they are mature. CPG is scaling up and maturing. What we need to look at digital maturity, it has two phases. One is the consumer facing aspect of it, which directly talks to the consumers, and one is the inward facing, wherein all the individual parts of the organization come together to create more responsible data and more accurate data for them to make decisions.
So we talked about the customer touch experiences. Now let's go towards the back end. What goes into making sure that you can get that customer experience when he's having 1 million customers a year, you probably are having 200 million customers. So that's a wide disparity. And some of their clients might be running into, 500 million. Your clients may be running into 400, 300. We don't know. I don't know that, but you know it. So what goes into the back end in terms of managing all that, which you were talking about earlier?
Sure. So, as I mentioned, there are basically, I see 3 or 4 key pillars here, which you need to make sure that it gets fixed for this seamless journey. The first is your platforms, basically the technology and foundation behind that. You need to have the right data lake so that all the data falls in, the pipelines are there at one place, and then you can actually see that what's happening. The best CDPs, CRMs, all of this, the MarTech tools have to be in place, and analytics, because when you're talking about scale, typically, we are generating almost, not me, but then over the world, 400 million terabytes of data every day. Now, this scale of data needs to be, it gets generated every day, right? And here we are talking about completely new set of data points. If this data is getting created, there has to be some methodology to measure that, have the advanced analytics using ML and AI, and also getting insights out of it. So it's not just, measuring the data and not getting it back to the marketing or whichever team is working on. So that has to be solid. The second is that if you have understood your customer, how have you understood? You need to have the advanced segmentation of the customers. You need to create the proper customer journey. So the ownership is with the brand to make sure that we know the customer journey properly. And this, we are talking about so many customers, right? So every journey has to be unique. You may say that, okay, website is important, display is important, influencer marketing is important, but every customer would like to have the touch point at a different stage. So I think that, and then eventually preparing the content, because when we are talking about scale, content cannot be developed by an agency or by some folks sitting there in the room, because that scale of content, which, and that what the digital consumer has become, right? They need every new set of content almost every day. Now, which means that you also need to leverage Gen AI there to develop those kind of content with insights. Now, that's the second pillar. The third pillar is that once we are catering to the content, are we actually capturing the responses from the customer? Are we actually getting those nuances and those specific details of whether the customer is liking the stuff that we have created or not? I think this is one thing which usually misses, because we don't have a special team, and like what Abbhishek was also mentioning, the way that you have solved it, which is unless you have that team sitting there which is looking at real-time data and then immediately getting it back, the feedback to the person or to the owner of the whole program, it's not going to happen. And here we are not only talking about the marketing team. When we are doing it, when we are creating an omnichannel marketing strategy, there's a sales team sponsor there, there's a marketing team, customer experience team, your call center, even your HR team, right? So we do a lot of get social listening from various teams, and all of those teams are important, including the leadership team, by the way, because eventually whichever leaders are there on social and all, the feedback is everywhere. I think it just needs to get collected. So all these three pillars that I spoke about needs to be fixed before we eventually think of a seamless customer journey.
Sumit, it's over to you.
I think everyone is our customer. For Bikanervala, everyone is our customer. So that is a goal set. So as a digital aspect, currently we are more focused on the feedbacks and all, right? I mean, what is the feedbacks? Previously we don't get the feedbacks, right? So we used to get letters and all, right? If any bad feedback is there, we used to get letters. So now when you open a digital sales, so automatically you will get a digital feedbacks also, right? I mean, you go to Zomato and write about that this is not a good item, and you will get automatically in a reply, right? So is it right now. So we want to improve that. So we are more focused on a feedback, customer survey, what are the improvement required for the products and all. So that is there for us. So eventually, when we set up everything in-house, then we can focus on a commerce, right? I mean, because this lot more data is coming on. I mean, we are getting more than 10,000 feedbacks in a day. So 10,000 feedbacks, that means that there is a good feedback, there is a bad feedback. NPS score is also can be measured on that. So what are the product, and also there is Gen AI is also helping us to understand, reading those comments and saying that this is the product and you need to improve, right? And these are the product you need to be more focused. So that's what we are doing. So year on year we will improve our feedback system to understand, because we believe that food is a different set of category, and taste and knowing that the best quality product deliver that. So that's a main key area, and that is what we are doing from last more than 100 years. So yeah, next part is commerce. So we are setting up our own platform. We are already done. So data is coming from different channel, and we will be contributing that.
Great. Now, you've been at this for some time. So what are some of the best practices you guys have picked up? And, in terms of exactly what they two have been talking about?
In terms of acquisition or?
Acquisition, at the back end, what are some of the best practices you guys have picked up?
Okay. So I'll try to break this down. Firstly, in the acquisition phase, as there are many aggregators and those kind of platforms also consumers are exposed to, and it's fairly logical for them also to change this journey, because within our platform we cannot tell them how a certain brand is better than a competition brand, right? So for the consumer, that aggregator platform becomes a very seamless journey, and they thrive on it. They thrive on the fact that they've built that kind of an environment where the consumer can see one thing in every like complete spread. And it's used for advertising, not just for other vehicles, but also for some subsidiary products like insurance or even real estate. So that platform does give us data, but not a lot of data is usable. So at least in auto, we have to recognize that what platform is giving us what level of conversions, because that lead needs to be matured into a certain amount of an inquiry and thereafter the retail. Now, when something, and we also have our own internal benchmarks from inquiry to retail. So we know that probably 80% of the battle is won if that inquiry has been converted. But from that lead to that inquiry, there are so much of probably trash that we need to filter out that it's not humanly possible, right? So there is an AI, there is a bot which is in place, which at least makes 60% of the job easier. And then whatever is filtered out is then taken care as a potential inquiry and then mapped to the dealer. The dealer calls them up, then converts it into an inquiry, and then gradually to the retail. So that's one part of the journey which is from the aggregator side. Similarly, on our own platforms, there are leads, there are certain inquiries that get generated through our campaigns on Meta and other platforms, which also give us quite a good level of volume support. So, and then they are also matured in a certain way. But these source-wise have to be taken with their own individual strengths and weaknesses, and hence that automation is also required in order to get that particular thing translated into a final end retail for the organization.
So some of the best practices your clients have, resorted to in terms of at the back end, so that they can, be able to give that customer that great journey experience.
Yeah. So I'll just pivot back on what Shweta had said earlier in terms of all the data falling into a very robust data lake, right? Which is very essential. So aggregation of data from all the sources that has to come at one mobilized point. The second part to this is, and that's what a large part of our clients have been doing, and we've been propagating that to them very strongly in terms of getting that data in one place. But what starts ahead earlier is collecting of that data, collecting and then mobilizing, right? So first party is the key right now. Anything and everything starts at one PD. So we have been institutionalizing the same for all of our clients, because that's where that's where the birth of any kind of a personalized, any kind of a richer, enhanced customer experience starts, right? Personalization starts from there. Cross-sell, upsell starts from there. The entire persona creation, it starts from there. So data collection as well as creating a very strong data lake, that's been there. And the third part is that, and we spoke about the maturity graphs earlier. So we are at that junction right now wherein even if the maturity is at a lower graph, at a lower point right now, we have to move forward with it progressively. So when you buy into a solution today, you need to be looking at it on what that gives me 5 years from now and make that solution available to us, right? And there are platforms and there are solutions available in the market. For example, if I am launching my D2C right now, but I don't know where the scale is going to be at, but do I need to invest into a CDP in the next 4 years or not? I will then create a module which will eventually fit into that. I will make that accustomed to what my future progression is. At the helm of it all starts from a very philosophical place in terms of the organization opening up into digital transformation and understanding that this is required, right? So we've been having those discussions, and those discussions often play between the CTOs and the CMOs, because that's where who signs the check. Ultimately it drops to that. The CMO signs the check or the CTO signs the check, and who becomes the custodian and who becomes the person to operationalize. So I think data as well as being ready for what the future is going to be at, so you progressively make that change.
What is the future going to be like? Please tell me. What is innovation going to come into the space as far as customer experiences are concerned? Where do you see that, each of you all?
I'll tell you what, if I were to start on it, culture is going to have a very strong input onto experiences. When I say culture, empathy, right? We are sitting right now, all of us millennials, and of course, not you, sorry. So we are going to be making marketing strategies for Gen Zs and Gen Alphas. you look at their consumer preferences, you look at their mindsets, you look at their thoughts, right? Their understanding and their perception of customer experience is going to be an absolutely different ball game altogether. So understand their sentiment, right? And to work and make that brand conducive to them, to have them into that consideration gap, that's going to be a massive piece. And that's where your experiences will become much more culturally nuanced, right? So how I react to a sentiment online, right? How do I personalize it much better so that I am not overtly also selling to them, neither am I being a little too pushy as well. So the next generation of consumers that are going to be coming onto the fold, we need to be very specific in terms of how the experiences come from a culture as a prism. I feel so. Everything else is going to be the same. Tech is going to get much better. You already have AI creating a lot of content. We work with the largest e-commerce brand in the world, and every time a marketing campaign goes live, we create up to upwards of 100,000 plus personalized creatives for them. So tech is going to get much better, but the input onto tech has to be much more finer, right? So whenever we work on Gen AI tools, the input to the prompts, they have to be much more smarter. So my point being, the tech is going to give you much more scalar. We are going to create outputs much faster. But in all of this, the layer in terms of how we see through culture and empathy, that has to be sought through.
So in your case, your product category is seeing challenges. You were mentioning to me that the culture of people, the new generation is looking towards safety. So you have a challenge between investing in scale and also making sure that you address that safety factor. So tell us a bit more about what you were telling me offline.
So you would have known something like a trial of a two-wheeler airbag, right? I'm not saying that will take care of the safety. It's just one of those measures that organization is doing for an overall, technological development, not just for the vehicle but also for the passenger. And this is just one of those things that are being added onto it. But as he rightly said, it will totally depend on how the culture evolves at an overall level, and then how it marries into the individual category and then or into the individual products. And I'll give you a very specific example. Like with a lot of working force now also comprising of women and the road conditions getting better, we have seen that within the two-wheeler category as a whole, the number of scooter riders have increased, and that's totally motivated with culture, right? And what is the requirement of today's day and age, where to live a better quality of lifestyle, both partners should be working. All those kind of things do really feed into it. And then there are innovations. Say, for example, just 7-8 years ago when Lenskart introduced the tap technology in their individual sphere. So it did attract a lot of people who probably didn't want to go through all that pain of buying certain things offline. And similarly with Myntra of the world revolutionizing that entire retail space as well. While certain millennials or even beyond would think that I'd still go and physically buy something in the store because I don't really trust the online shopping way. So a lot of these things need to definitely be contextualized for the kind of consumers that we're trying to reach out. Now for Royal Enfield individually, since it's more for the a certain level of people and above, the electric variant, when they come, they may not be talking to that same consumer set. And then probably we'll go a little younger, a little bit more defined. So we do see a lot of scooters that are there in EV. We see bikes that are in EV. Now we will have a lot more of them from individual organizations. That kind of culture shift will happen, and probably that's where that volume gain can also happen, and how things evolve. So, and just to give you a bit of a context, I was hearing from one of the industry experts that the number of Tata Punch EVs that sell in Agra outnumber the overall Tata Punch EVs that sell in Delhi NCR. And this is happening on a very continuous basis. And a very peculiar insight to this is that people are able to charge their vehicles at their home, and probably it is definitely one of the second vehicles that they would have. But charging at one's place and having that kind of point-to-point travel of a certain limited radius actually builds upon a lot of credibility for that brand. And when you go outside of big cities, this is what is happening. You suddenly start seeing a lot of EVs because of a certain cultural fit for their individual ways of
That's
working.
on the product side, but what about the customer journey? Going forward, what is it going to be like, and how do you build it up? Because scale is going to happen, there's going to be many product categories further. You already have a lot of segmentation, then you'll have to scale up for the EV side. How do you see that proceeding?
See, that's exactly for two-wheelers as a category, it's a little bit of a challenge because a lack of clarity from a lot of angles. So recently you may have known that the subsidy on EVs has been taken off. So the EV as a space has got a little bit of a jolt basis that. Then the kind of infrastructure that was promised, say 5 years ago, yeah, definitely COVID came in and did its job. But not a lot has been achieved during that period. And meanwhile, the kind of innovations, because this is a category that is driven by product. And I'll give you a very good example of this. So say 5 years ago, you used to see brands like Alto and WagonR actually leading the way for the four-wheelers. But now the scenario is completely changed. Now it is actually the compact SUVs and the micro SUVs, as terms are being called, with the Punch and the Esters of the world coming into that segment. That segment is now the leading. So if you combine all the SUVs together, they are actually outnumbering the initial the setup that was there, and that was completely a product story. And product being said, this auto as a high investment category for not just the consumer but even for the organization is actually motivated by all the feedbacks that come to us as for the consumers, right? And that's where that innovation happens, and hence the traction also happens. So it's like kind of a chicken and egg for auto as a category.
What about Sumit? And then we move on to Shweta last.
See, evolve is there, right? I mean, evolving is there. I mean, previously, as I mentioned, right, we are only on offline, right? So we are all, I mean, before 2018, so we were only on offline. So started growing after COVID. 2019, and we are a single digit of our number, right? I mean, now we are contributing more than 30% of our business, right, from the digital space. So, and again, digital space means the aggregator, mostly Zomato, Swiggy, Amazon, right? But the number is going high, and the controllability from their end is a big issue, right? I mean, they have the control, they have the customer, they have everything. So they can, so that's the reason we need also our own channel, own platform. For that, we started collecting data and all, because customer is not there sharing the number on an offline basis without any program or anything. We started our own loyalty program. So you go to Bikanervala store and you'll get a cashier will invite you to join a loyalty program, and you'll get started at a certain point. From that database, we wanted to target our own app, which we already built. So that's how we are planning to do. but the rapid number is being, I mean, every year we are growing like 4% to 6%, right? So I believe in the next 7 years, we will be contributing more than a 50% from the digital platform for the ordering, right? And the food is now, I mean, here and there, you got a notification from Zomato, and the food as a category, they actually evolved, right? I mean, I think before COVID, I used to order only once in a week or once in a month, I mean max, once in a 15 days. Now every day or every alternative day, we are all ordering from the food, right? So as a category, it has been evolved. People are not, I would not say, I mean, compared to China, compared to US, so still there is a gap, right? I mean, if 100 mil is cooked, so the 5 mil is from the apps and or offline, right? Online. In the US, the number is very big. I mean, 20, China is like 30. Out of 100, 30 mils are cooked from outside. So again, if you connect to the flow with the GDP growth, this number will go up, and we wanted to catch up on there, and the online is the only solution, and we want to be on that.
Shweta, in terms of the future, I mean, you have prescription drugs, you have OTC drugs, you have doctors addressing doctors, you have several areas you have to address.
Right, right. So as you mentioned that we have multiple set of customers. So one is
Multiple touch points.
multiple touch points. So set of customers means you have doctors and hospitals, and then you have the consumers who could buy OTC medicines online. Now I remember, like 5 years back when I was working with a consumer durables company, there even for a Gen Z product that you mentioned, you were getting approximately 40% sell out online. But now, and when I entered pharmaceutical, it started with a 1 or 2%, that too, probably because of COVID. Today, many of our brands are actually hovering around 25 to 30%. Some of our generic brands.
Back
Now
end, you have to
that's-
invest in CDPs and GPQs and all of that.
Yes, that's, if you're working at a scale, as I mentioned that it needs to create a very solid, robust value case. You can't be investing in these platforms, without having a very solid business case. And it can only happen if your consumer base is large, huge, as well as your markets to cater is also, large. Because most of these tools do not sit out of just one country. You have to have, and if you as a brand you want to own and most of the data points of their customers, everything cannot be used also, because in taking care of the data privacy rules and various rules in every country. But then you need to have working in scale to manage these tools. So all of this is there. But yes, these percentages have been increasing. However, I also do feel that your target should not be the percentage increase of online sales. I think that's something which will eventually come. If we cater to the customer, we understand their needs and cater to them in terms of what they want, whether it is content, whether it's a product, whether it's a post-product service, whether it's a life continuum where we are not just talking about just buying one pill and then forgetting about it. It's basically the service that you give after that as well. It can be a consolidation as well, which is not just looking at one pharma company, but then how all of these industry stakeholders can get together and then give the best experience to the consumer. I think that is where the success lies, not in the percentage online sales, because eventually whoever needs a medicine will buy, be it online or offline. So I think that's where we should look at, and I think rest of the things will fall in place.
Great. I hope you all guys have got what was expected of this panel. I stepped in to replace Shradha because she had a personal emergency. I hope you'll have got what was expected of this panel. But thank you for being very kind and responding to my questions. And let's give them a round of applause. Not me, but them, because they gave very great responses. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Unwari, for moderating the session for us. Thank you so much, panel members. May I request you to please stay back with us on stage. We have a felicitation ceremony to take place. To do the honors, I would request you, sir, to please felicitate all our panel members. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, this session that we are looking at has just come to an end. So we have experienced a fantastic session. We discussed on the topic of creating digital customer experience at scale. And our speakers who were present along with us, Ms. Shweta Srivastava, Head of Digital and Omni-Channel Marketing, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, Mr. Sumit Biswas, Head D2C and E-Commerce, Bikanervala Foods Private Limited, Mr. Kunal, Global Brand Lead, Royal Enfield, Mr. Abhishek Chadha, EVP North and East, Interactive Avenues. And the session was moderated by our session chair, Mr. Anil Vanwari, Founder, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief, IndianTelevision.com. May I request all the panel members to please come together for a group photo op.